And we're on right now.
These
Hang on, I
mics
want to
are
play
hot.
this song, a little bit of this song for you guys. I think that's all we can do without copyright infringement, though.
Yeah, that's
right
about
there.
it. Yeah.
Where are we at? Oh, 28 seconds. You're allowed 30.
Nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
Nailed it.
How's that? So that was, if you guys are wondering, a great Canadian group called A Tribe Called Red, and that song is Electric Pow Wow Drum. And I like those guys, even though one of them is mad at me on Twitter. But anyway, we can talk about that later. So, I'm Jody Mitic. You're welcome to the Jody Mitic Podcast, episode
Number
9. Are we at 9 already?
Yep.
I'm waiting for a cool even 10.
That's right.
And we missed last week. Of course, my co-host, Coach Luke Rowan,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
is with us. And I see you're back to wearing Fighter and the Kid t-shirts.
That's it. I've thrown out all my other t-shirts.
Days that I have seen Luke Rowan not wearing a Fighter and the Kid t-shirt, 0.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Good to hear. Of course, I was gone for a week. I was in Newfoundland taking a course. But I'll get to that in a second. I want to introduce tonight, we have a guest. Dr. Chris Raynor.
G'day.
And he owns Gym Human 2.0 here. And that is his first time ever being on a podcast. What is that? The iPhone watch?
I think
is,
there's something
'cause-
wild going on.
Oh, that was your ringer.
Phone, and then on the watch, I'm on call.
Is that?
Super high tech.
Do you have to go?
No.
Because you're a surgeon, right?
Correct.
He may have a
this an
life to
emergency?
save right now.
Okay, we're just going to pause real quick while
Yeah.
the doc handles his business. So are we recording again?
So we're actually
You're
back
sure?
now.
This is attempt number 4.
100%
come
back.
back.
100% back.
Okay, we're going to do some tutorial,
Yeah.
I think, later
Yeah,
for the
it's
both
needed.
of us.
It's
how to work
needed.
this little zoom thing.
That's right. That's right.
Umi Zoomy is one of my kids' favorite shows.
Perfect.
I don't know why I just said that. Just saying Zoomy made me think of it.
Yeah, of course it did.
So before we realized we weren't recording, I was introducing the doctor's lovely wife, but also we were talking about how you are on call.
Correct.
And that alarm sound is only for when the hospital calls.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. And then your little watch beeped.
Exactly.
So that's the iWatch.
It's the iWatch.
What's that thing cost?
I don't know. I got it on points actually,
Which
Ooh,
points?
I like that.
like Avion points.
I got Avion points.
Yeah.
I got like 186,000 of those things.
At Christmas, this was on sale for.
I'm getting an iWatch.
50,000 points.
Yeah, you should.
I'm so getting an iWatch.
50,000 points, you can get a whole bunch of them.
I get,
Exactly.
I get you one. You want one?
Yeah, I do. Of course
Yeah.
I do. I love
All right.
high-tech
I
stuff
don't know
that
if
I
your
don't need.
Your phone is like a 5 though. Does that work with
Yeah.
the watch?
Hey, man, you don't have to rag on my phone like
I'm
that.
not ragging on it. I'm just saying it might be too old.
I don't know. It might be, actually.
When I met you, you
It
had
might
like
be.
an iPhone 3.
No, it was a 4.
4.
Yeah, it was the 4S, thank you. The most
4S,
indestructible,
the best iPhone ever built, by
Yes,
the way.
thank you,
I don't
thank you.
care. Apple, if you're listening, go ahead and remake that phone, but with like 60 gigs or whatever
Yeah.
whatever this one has.
Yeah, stuff some more
That was
memory
like
on
that
it.
one was perfect. Fit in your pocket. You could put it in like your breast pocket of your shirt.
Not
So
gonna fall
good.
out all the time.
Not gonna fall out. You can
Yeah.
give it to a toddler. Guess
Exactly.
what? That thing didn't break. Guess you know how many of these things I broke? My 6S. Like 3 of them.
Yeah,
You just
brutal.
put them down a little too hard, and the thing breaks.
Yeah.
Back to you. So you opened a gym here. That's how we met. I saw you on the social medias, Human 2.0, and I'm always looking for new stuff. And I'm all about like realizing the potential of the body, especially since I lost my legs. I've been looking for the next thing for me. Like I'm bodybuilding right now because I'm a vain guy and I want a 6-pack before I'm 40. And I mean, who wouldn't, right?
Of
I mean,
course.
I had one before I got blown up. And it's going to be my 10-year anniversary in January. I know the listeners have heard this before, but it's new for Mandy and Chris, so I'm just going to go ahead and,
Of course.
and tell the audience because it's my show, so I can do that. So, yeah, I decided to get my 6-pack back and make it a goal of my 40th birthday and my 10-year anniversary getting blown up. So, but after that, I think I will finally be able to come and frequent your gym
Anytime.
because I'm looking to do handstand walking.
Okay.
I want to be able to walk like, what do they do in CrossFit? I think it's 50 meters.
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, their bodies don't look awesome or anything. So I mean,
Sure.
CrossFit's got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the philosophy of Human 2.0. Like, what's your fitness philosophy?
So our fitness philosophy here is pretty much everybody move all the time. And so we want to teach movement skills, the foundational or basic movement skills to everybody. And when we're training people, I kind of look at the way that we train the same way that you might look at high performance car racing. Okay, so if you think about your car and you think about any of the safety features that you have on your car, anti-lock brakes, energy recapture, hybrid motors, any of that kind of stuff, all of that stuff started at a higher level, and that over time it trickled down to the general population. So
Right.
if we have if we look at fitness now and we look at movement skills, whatever works for our most elite athletes, right? People who their job depends on the difference of like milliseconds or hundreds of a second. If it works for them, why can't it work for other people, right? So just the same way you have performance automobiles and you have all of these high-level pieces of equipment and machinery, and it's trickled down and used in the general population, so too do I want to take the things that we have at our highest levels with our athletes, scale them down, and bring them for the general population. And at the end of the day, I want everybody to move all the time. If I think about the people that I see or I treat in the hospital, I would probably venture to guess 75% of the people that are in the hospital as inpatients are there because of diabetes or some kind of complication thereof.
From lack of moving.
Lack of moving, right? Lack of moving and diet and just poor lifestyle decisions. So if I can do a small part in helping those people to get back something in their life and be able to better themselves by being able to move pain-free, to do the things that they want, being able to exercise, then I think that I've done my part, or I've helped contribute to helping them live a better life and a more rewarding life.
Amazing. I love it. Because I remember the first thing I saw from you guys on Twitter, I believe it was Twitter, I'm pretty sure you guys were doing sprints up and down a hill, and then in the next picture you had people like, I think they were doing handstands or they were walking on their hands maybe.
Crawling probably.
Crawling, and I thought, yeah, like this is great. Like, it's, and you see it now too. I was just listening to another podcast today. A lot of the MMA guys are starting to get these movement people to come into their camps and get them to like widen out their stances and their like I know my right shoulder is very limited in a lot of the movement because I only did shooting for so long, and I didn't really stretch it out. I didn't, and I didn't do yoga enough when I was a younger guy. So, so the philosophy of keep everybody moving all the time then translates into keeping the body loose, making sure that joints don't get rigid from lack of use, things like that. Is that
for sure? It's so. What we want to do is we want to teach people how to not only remain supple or keep their joints supple, but we want them to develop strength throughout the full range of motion. So,
Right.
At our core, at the core of our philosophy is the whole concept of mobility. And when I say mobility, what we mean by that is flexibility, but strength throughout the whole flexibility. Strength throughout the whole flexibility and the whole range of motion. So that has two components to it. So one, it has the development of that range of motion. We want you to be able to use whatever the joint has available.
So your
to
first
it.
priority is movement over strength.
Movement first, yes.
Right.
And then we want you to develop the strength. So I would say it's almost a three-tier approach. The approach is first, develop the movement. Right, so
Okay.
the
Yep.
whole range of flexibility.
Makes sense.
Then two, to develop strength in that throughout that full range of motion.
Right.
And then three is to own that motion, right?
Right.
And demonstrate ownership of that range of motion, right? So that requires the first two steps. You have to have the full flexibility, you have to have the strength, and then you need to be able to demonstrate that your ability to control yourself throughout that range of motion.
Right. And so you've been very successful in Ottawa because, owning a gym is a tough business. I want to get into it. And the one thing you always hear is like how hard it is to be successful. But your philosophy has brought in members of like the local CFL team, the Red Blacks.
Correct.
You got all kinds of other sports teams that come through here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of troops come in here because we should say you have been a member of the reserves for how long?
For 5 years now.
5 years.
Yeah.
So you're in the military community. So like you're getting a lot of buy-in from the right kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
And are they going then back to their professions and having success?
So
I know you can't give names or anything, but do you get testimony about how different your philosophy is and how well it helps them with their day-to-day activities?
Certainly. So without naming names, I can say
Can't
that
name drop on here as awesome as it would be.
So without naming names, I can say that some of our more well-known athletes. We've had one athlete who was the most outstanding player in the CFL last year.
Go ahead and Google that. Most outstanding player in the CFL 2015.
So we had, and then we've had, when you go down to the next level, say, for example, our CIS athletes.
Sorry, what's CIS?
Canadian Inter-University Sports.
Okay.
So
yeah.
University athletes, football players from out east. We had one who was a Heck Crichton nominee.
What's that?
Heck Crichton is like the most outstanding player of the
right. See, I guess I should let you know a lot of our listeners are American and Commonwealth.
Sure.
So we always have to let them know what we're talking about because we're all Canadian, so they don't understand a lot of it.
Right. So our Heck Crichton is like the most outstanding football player. So we had a Heck Crichton nominee, and then we also had the most outstanding defensive football player in the AUS, which is our Eastern Conference in Canadian University football. So that's just like just three people, and that's one sport. But that's just three people off the top of my head who have been very, very successful, taken what we've taught them, gone back to their sport, and then done very, very well.
Awesome. And so when I come in here, like Human 2.0 is a great facility. It's wide open. It's got a lot of different equipment here. I notice you have the rings, you have the racks, you have the do you do any bench press stuff or barbell? Like, do you have any barbell stuff here?
Of course. So we have a lot of barbell stuff.
Okay.
We concentrate more on Olympic lifting. So
what's the Olympic lifting for those uninitiated?
So Olympic lifting is well, when you think of the Olympics and you think of weightlifting in the Olympics,
right,
the movements that you see, that would be what we do. So the basic things are squat, snatch, deadlift, clean and jerk.
So do you concentrate on it the way CrossFit does, or do you concentrate on it for the perfecting the movement type of stuff? Because I know CrossFit, their interpretation of form is a little different because they're going for speed and numbers.
Right.
But the proper Olympic lifters will tell you that that's not proper form, and they're surprised elbows and knees aren't exploding all over the place the way that the CrossFit guys do it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I like about CrossFit, but what we do here is different than CrossFit for sure.
Right.
So
and I'm not trying to criticize CrossFit. Anybody
no.
out there who does it, I think it's great. Clearly, if you look at the CrossFit games, which I follow, and I want to bring to Ottawa, the bodies on there, can't lie. Like they're all in great shape.
They're jacked.
Yeah, and they're getting bigger. Have you noticed that? Every year, their athletes get like. I was looking at the guys. I know this is what we do. We go off on a tangent. I was looking at the games this year. I think they just happened. Mm-hmm. They happened last weekend, and the guys and the girls too. Like I'm like, they look like they should be on a bodybuilding stage. They're so wide in the shoulders now. A few years ago, if you watch, their shoulders were about like you and me, about a little bit bigger than average, but not too bulging. But some of the guys have no necks.
Yeah, no, they're
and I'm like, and
huge.
they still move like gymnasts.
Yeah, they're pretty supple.
I mean, not like a real gymnast, but you know what I'm saying. For
No,
a guy
for sure.
that big to move the way that they do, it's actually pretty incredible. But I gotta wonder, however many get to that level, how many fall off to the side because they've ripped a shoulder or whatever. That's my only concern. I wanted to do CrossFit, but I was worried about like just breaking something. But anyway.
Well, we have, a lot of our members are ex-CrossFit
Are
people
they? Yeah.
who were hurt,
Okay.
came to us for physio, saw what we were doing, thought, hey, I can still do the same kinds of things I do in CrossFit, but not hurt myself. And certainly one of the differences that when we're doing these kinds of movements, Olympic lifting and that kind of stuff, we kind of joke about some of our instructors here. We'd say that we're Olympic lifting Nazis because it's all about, no, that does not count. It's not good.
Yeah. They do the movement. You're like 0, 0,
exactly.
0.
But at the bottom line, I want everybody to get jacked. I want everybody to be strong.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be hurt.
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
Form for us is a big thing. It's
Good.
a big thing.
So I just want to clarify a few more things for anyone in the Ottawa area. Human 2.0 is off what street?
Thurston.
You're on Thurston, which
Yep.
is right off the south end of St. Laurent.
Correct.
And so if I was coming here, let's say I don't know anything about anything, and I walk in the doors of Human 2.0, what services do you have available?
So we essentially anything having to do with musculoskeletal health care, we have it. So myself, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. So I see sports and my specialty.
And you practice out of here as doctor?
Yes. So
Okay.
I have clinics here 2 days a week. So I myself do see my sports medicine patients here. Then we also have physiotherapists. We have athletic therapy. We have massage therapy. We have a certified dietitian on staff. We have performance training. And then we have our group fitness program. So essentially,
Oh my
we
gosh.
have pretty much everything. Oh, yes. And then custom bracing as well.
So custom,
Bracing.
what's that?
So ACL braces and ligament braces for knees for if
oh,
someone's had
so
an ACL tear.
like orthotics, but for the joints.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool. I never heard of that. So it's a one-stop shop.
Pretty much.
So a complete fitness diet novice could walk into Human 2.0
Yes.
and walk out the other end a superhuman with the right work. With the right work.
So
You just say yes.
Yes. But
yeah.
the other, Mandy always jokes that I want to turn everybody into ninjas, and that's
awesome.
It's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not really a joke. 'Cause
Yeah.
if I could make everybody into a ninja, then I would.
I
Right?
think everyone wants to be a ninja too.
Exactly.
Even if they won't announce it,
Yeah,
yeah.
deep down inside,
Yeah.
they want those ninja skills.
Who doesn't watch
Yes.
the Bourne movies and say, I really wish I was Jason Bourne?
Of course.
exactly.
Like,
Of
even
course.
girls want to be Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Come on, let's talk. Let's be real here.
Yep.
Okay, so you also have a component here that I thought was really interesting, and our listeners would probably enjoy it. And what is it called? Caveman Fitness?
So one of our main instructors, our resident specialist in mobility and Olympic lifting is Tyler Touchette. And so Tyler has his own gym, which is called Caveman Strong. So that's
Caveman Strong?
Caveman Strong,
Okay.
and he has that gym in Cornwall. And then here in Ottawa, he works for us. And so that's
But that's it's one of the courses you offer here, is it not? Or am I misinterpreting?
it's not really a course, but Tyler is essentially the one who does our group fitness programming.
And what's group fitness at a Human 2.0?
So group fitness for us is we have classes, usually I think 6 to 7 classes a day, and the class size can be anywhere from 6 to 20 or sometimes more. And essentially, if you were to go to Good Life, Movati, or any of those other places and do a group fitness, a step class, a barbell class, or whatever, whatever is the class of the day that they're offering now, you would come here, and instead of doing that kind of thing, you would do a group fitness class. And our group fitness class would have, generally has 3 elements. So it's going to have a mobility element, which is, again, flexibility and strength. Then you're going to have a strength training component, which can be body weight training, or can be, depending on the class, it can be Olympic lifting barbell training. And then you're going to have usually a conditioning component. And so that whole
Conditioning being like cardio or whatever?
cardio, but not in the sense that most people are assuming. We're not going to get you to we're not running. We're not going to get you to do you're not on a treadmill, you're not on an exercise bike. You're going to do gymnastic cardio. So we're going to have usually circuits, and you may be doing, for example, like, I don't know, you're going to have so hollow rocks or arch body rocks in conjunction with something else, and we're gonna do that for time.
Sorry, what did Mandy say?
So Tabatas. Yeah, so we'll have that kettlebell swings.
So okay, so that's cardio I can get behind. I gotta do a lot of rowing now for the bodybuilding thing.
Yep.
And it's like every day he's like 20 minutes on the rowing machine. I'm like, well, because I can't run anymore.
Yeah.
To be honest, a lot of people know that I ran the half marathon and the Army run, and I still have the running legs, but my SI joint and my I know it sounds weird, but my shoulder. My mid back. I've had to do a lot of work with my chiropractor and my physiotherapist. I'm looking at getting into massage therapy. Like, do you believe in all that stuff?
Well, we offer all.
You offer it all here.
We offer all those services. The only thing that we don't offer is chiropractic, and
I find it helps me. So
it's for us. It's a personal philosophy, and if you open up a can of worms. If you ask any orthopedic surgeon what they think about a chiropractor, generally it's going to be not pretty positive.
Less than awesome.
Exactly.
Less than
So I
stellar.
recognize that a lot of people use chiropractic.
So what? Okay, so if you're talking to me,
Yes.
and trying to convince me not to go to my chiropractor, what would you convince me to do instead?
Well, so I'm never going to try to convince someone not to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people generally what I think the role that they serve, and I do think that chiropractors in some settings serve.
I just want my back to feel better.
For sure.
So tell me, hey, instead of going there, this is what I think.
So what I would what I would tell them is I would first of all talk to them about the pathology. What is the cause of their pain? And for most people, there's two types of back pain, generally speaking, at least from an orthopedic medical perspective. There's neurologic back pain and there's mechanical back pain. So neurologic is anything that has a neurologic basis and involves compression or irritation of a nerve root or nerve component. And then there's everything else, which is mechanical. And from a surgical perspective, we only are going to treat things that are neurologic. We are generally not going to treat mechanical back pain because the treatment for that is the same. The treatment for that is working on the flexibility to restore the flexibility and the mobility of your spinal segments, individual spinal segments, and then 2, strengthening all the muscles around. So the muscles of the back, the muscles of the core, the muscles of the upper, or of your legs, both on the front and the back, to help strengthen and stabilize the back.
So rebalance the body.
Exactly.
So because for me, it's my left SI, it's my upper right between the shoulders, and then it's my right side of my neck gets pinched.
Right.
And if you look at it, the way for how I understand it, they're all related.
Of course.
And part of it is my one prosthetic was actually too tall for me on the left side. So it pushed up my left SI joint.
Yes.
And then that, caused this, which then caused the bow, like a little bit of a, what do you call it? My spine went like this a little bit.
Right. So
and
you
then
have a little bit
and then
of
it
a
goes back
scoliosis.
into the.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've been trying to correct that. It's working really well.
Sure.
But I've also been doing a lot of stretching. Like I keep moving my neck back and forth to keep the I don't know, what are they? Oh, and the discs in my neck deteriorated from wearing a Kevlar helmet for 20 years.
Yep.
Apparently, it's very common amongst combat pilots as well,
Yes.
and combat arms guys in the military.
That's right. And plus your job doing what you do with your body in one position all day
Yeah, a
long.
lot of it was in sniper position, right? We're on our back, we're on our prone position,
that's right.
and actually my elbows. I have extreme, I guess they call it golfer's elbow on
Okay.
both sides from always being on my elbows, like looking through binoculars or looking through my scope.
Yep.
And even to this day, like, it kind of affected my my fitness routine with Luke and stuff.
Yep.
So instead of chiro, though, you're saying just try and do targeted stretching, open up the joints, open up the vertebrae a little bit more.
So I'll say to you what I say to my patients.
Right.
I'm not a very smart guy, so I like to make things simple.
Right.
Right. And so
I like simple.
Yeah. So when I think about chiropractors and what they're doing, there's a problem and they're treating the symptoms. So what I would rather do is go to the root source of the problem, fix the problem so that you don't have the symptoms and that you don't have to go to the chiropractor.
So what would you? So is that a prescription or is that a routine? What am I looking for as a not like if I'm just a guy who, man, my back is sore and if I can't afford chiropractor or whatever, like is there a series of movements you would recommend? Is there a source you would maybe tell someone to look into?
So the causes for back pain are numerous, right? And so just for yourself, you mentioned about 3 different ones that are relevant to you, right? But if I see Luke, I see my wife, I see whoever, I may have there might be a bunch of different causes. So I think first and foremost, you need to have somebody that's going to assess, and they're going to be able to say to you, look, man, these are the problems that you have, and this is the cause of why you have those problems. You need to have somebody who has the ability to do the clinical assessment and diagnosis, and then they're going to have to be able to say, okay, now that I've diagnosed this as the problem and these are the causes, they need to be able to then spend the time to say, this is the approach. So for myself, I'm a little bit of a tech geek. I like new technology and I love computers and I love the internet. So I spend a lot of time watching videos and I watch various, or I listen to podcasts. I watch different videos and I see the different things that people are doing on the internet. And I think to myself, why am I going to try and reinvent the wheel? So as part of my prescription now, I say to patients, I have a list on our website. We have videos that we've watched, which we think are beneficial for particular problems. We've separated them into body parts, and that's on our website. And,
that's awesome.
Or on our YouTube channel, I should say. And now I say to patients, I've seen this video for this problem, and I think this will help you. And so as part of my prescription to patients now, I'll say, okay, well, you need to do this. Yes, we're going to get you going to physio, or yes, we're going to get you going to this personal trainer because they have expertise in this. But, oh, by the way, if you have access to the internet, here's a list of 5 videos that you can watch, which all address the things that you need to do for this problem. And guess what? It's free.
That's awesome. Wow.
I love it.
That covers almost everything.
Yep.
So walking to Human 2.0, you're getting the full treatment. You're getting detailed from top to bottom.
That's our plan.
I love it.
That's our plan.
And it's going well?
It's going well.
I love it. Yeah, you know what? I love what's your social media? What's your Instagram?
So our Instagram is Human 2.0, all words.
Okay, so Human so if you're on Instagram, folks, it's Human 2.0 but all words.
That's right.
Like
TWO.
Oh, the word 2.
Yeah, so human.
And then 0
TWO point POINT 0
Right.
ZERO.
Okay. And then what's your Twitter?
Human verse 2.
Yeah, human verse VERS.
VERS 2.
Okay, say it again.
HUMAN
HUMAN
VERS
2
Two.
as a numeral.
That's your Twitter. Okay, so if you want to check them out, that's where you go. Let's talk a little bit more about, so if you had to pick one treatment for me, physiotherapy or massage therapy, like if I could only afford one.
So I would say physiotherapy.
Physiotherapy, okay. Do you believe in, what's it called, the fascia treatment? Is that a real thing?
So
'Cause I've heard both. I've heard I only bring it up because I heard the word today from someone.
Yeah, so there's a number of different treatments related to the fascia. So
And the fascia is that, it's like the elastic coating around all of our muscles, right?
essentially, that's
yeah,
right.
and it kind of just holds the bag of meat together that we are.
Pretty much.
And that can be damaged.
Of course,
Right.
the fascia can be, depending on what type of injury you've had, the fascia can have. Excuse me. The fascia can have scar tissue running through it, so it can be, instead of being soft and supple and mobile, it can be rigid and tough, not move very well.
So how do you treat that then?
So again, that's
Diagnosis.
diagnosis
Okay.
first of the problem, but then if it was that particular problem, then it comes back to flexibility
Right.
and working and stretching the fascia.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to have foam rolling to help break down the fascia, and sometimes in that circumstance, deep massage can help to help soften that tissue and allow it to be more supple, so that when you do stretch, it actually responds to the stretch.
Outstanding. So I was just thinking, we have a question for the doc. Do you have it?
Let me let me pull it up here.
Because I want to do this, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's happened in the world.
So, this guy asked he would love to hear good ideas or resources for rehabbing a surgically repaired distal bicep.
Okay.
And go.
And go. So one of the things. So first of all, let me say that there's a number of different techniques to fix the distal biceps. So what I'm going to say is just sort of a general approach to
Sure.
this, and it's not to be taken as specific medical advice. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you consider the biceps, generally, depending on the way that you fixed it. In my particular case, I would immobilize my patients for approximately anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, okay, and only allow gentle range of motion during that time, and that's to allow the healing to occur once you've reconnected the distal biceps tendon to the tuberosity or to the bone where it essentially docks, okay?
Right.
So once you've done that, the elbow is one of the joints in the body which is notorious for becoming very stiff, okay? And it will quickly become stiff after only about 3 weeks. So you're going to have to work on the range of motion to develop the stiffness. It's going to you are going to spend a lot of time working on flexibility of the biceps because it's going to become shortened after that time. And so I usually would have my patients spend a good 4 to 6 weeks working on, let me back up for a second. First, they're immobilized after the post-op period for approximately 6 weeks.
Right.
Then they start working on range of motion. For my patients, that's anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks until they have a full range of motion. And by full range of motion, I mean full extension, full flexion, full supination with the palm up, full pronation with the palm down.
Right on.
Once they've done that, then I will start a progressive strengthening program and have them gradually work up to restoring their strength. So, in terms of resources, right now I spend one of the things that I've often, or one of the sites where I've sent people to quite frequently is to the Gold Medal Bodies website or the Gold Medal Bodies channel on
Right.
YouTube.
Okay.
They have a lot of they have a lot of general body videos which I think are quite excellent, but in particular for the biceps, I would direct somebody to their wrist and forearm strengthening videos and have people work through those progressions to restore their range of motion. And then after that, they can start to work on strengthening.
Okay. Awesome.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
pretty thorough. I hope you wrote that all down, whoever asked that.
Yeah, well,
Hit
he definitely
rewind
had,
a few times.
for sure. He'll have some stuff to
what
go
was
on.
the one about what video for wrist and forearms?
So Gold Medal Bodies.
Gold
if you
Medal
go-
Bodies.
Yeah, so you
I'm gonna
go
have
to
to
that
check that
channel
out.
on YouTube.
Okay.
And they have a couple videos. The one that I usually send people to most is wrist preparation for
Yeah.
handstands.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm not necessarily trying to make you do a handstand, but the things that they do to prep their wrists and their forearms for handstands
Right.
are quite good for wrist and elbow
I
mobility.
find like my forearms, the top, from like the wrist back, like I can't even like cut bread and cheese sometimes. Like I can't even flip stuff in the pan.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. Like there's something wrong with the tendon here for some reason. So I'm gonna check that out. And then also like the inside of my wrist.
Yes.
I find these are very painful quite often. And it kind of sucks because I have to like get up and out of my wheelchair a lot.
Yep.
So
which is probably why you have that
and then I got this little bump here on my wrist that popped up. Do you know what that is?
ganglion.
What is that?
So generally, a ganglion is a fluid-filled sac.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Just smash
Remember I
that
was showing
thing.
you this?
It's
Just smash
not a
that thing.
You guys
Duma.
can't
Yeah.
see it because we're in audio today. We're not in video because Matt didn't show up with the camera. But because the first time it popped up, I like smashed on it with my thumb and it went away.
Yes.
And then it came back. So what do I do?
Well,
Can I just smash it out or?
so every time you smash it, you
Make
break
it worse?
you break the sac,
Yeah.
and then the sac heals, and it comes back. So you haven't dealt
just
with
leave
the
it alone?
problem. So generally, if it's not hurting you, leave it alone.
Right.
If
right.
it
Right.
becomes
Right.
if it becomes a problem and
Yeah.
it's hurting or it's affecting your function,
Yeah.
then you would speak to either an orthopedic or a plastic surgeon, and they would do a resection
Okay. So you're gonna do a resection for me one day if it hurts?
if it hurts.
Okay. 'Cause I'm only coming to you from now on.
All right.
All right, so that was awesome. I'm like really stoked we came here tonight.
Absolutely.
I know it's not usually we're at Greco, but
Yeah.
but tonight we're here.
Yeah.
I think
no, it's awesome.
I like it.
This place is great.
It smells like a gym.
Right. Yes.
Right?
It's
We
true.
were out in the gym area earlier, but they have a air moving system that they call the Dragon, so we couldn't sit out there because it's quite. It was quite loud.
The dragon was huffing and puffing.
Yeah, the Dragon was huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit about some things that are going on in the world. We're at what time are we at? Oh, you know what we got to talk about actually. So we missed last week, Chris.
Yes.
We try and do this every Wednesday evening.
Yep.
And then Luke posts it Thursday morning, usually. I want to try and do twice a week,
Yeah.
like an hour each. We'll see. I don't
Yeah.
know if you and I were busy guys.
Okay.
Couple busy guys, couple busy dads.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
But so I go away for a 7-day course, and it's for veterans only. It's
Yep.
called the Prince's Entrepreneur Boot Camp.
Yes.
And it's offered at several universities across the country. If you're a veteran in Canada, Google Prince's Charities, Prince's Entrepreneurial Boot Camp. And it's 7 days of just fire hose information on how to run your own business. So like I said, I want to open a gym. So, and also, I have the book and I do speeches, keynote speeches. So I feel like, I'm already running a bit of a business anyway. I just got to learn the ins and outs and how to maximize tax returns and how to, do my expenses so I don't waste money needlessly.
Get an accountant.
Oh, I learned that lesson. I was at my accountant yesterday and he's like, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, oh, I thought that just because I get a car allowance for work.
Yes.
And he's like, well, what's your lease and all this? I'm like, what does that matter? I get the car allowance. He's like, well, you claim it back against the allowance. You claim your cost back against the allowance. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just pay tax on that income.
That's right.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And I show my lease agreement. He's like, there you go. You just got this much more off your taxes. And I'm like, oh, I'll be right back. And I run out to the car. I grab all these receipts from my trips. And I'm throwing down. I'm like, can I claim this? Can I claim that? He's like, yep. Anything you spend, you get it back in your HST. You get it back because you collect the HST and then you spent HST, so the government just evens it out for you. And I'm like, holy! And I started sending him an email with all my luggage receipts and all my.
An accountant is well worth it.
Oh, buddy,
I've learned that.
And well, I come from the Army, right? I joined at 17. I left at 37. 20 years. I realized this is in the real world, right? In the military. Go do what you do. Mm-hmm. If you're a sniper, go be a sniper. If you're in the artillery, go be in the artillery. Paperwork, we got clerks.
Exactly. It
to
goes,
do that.
It goes into the nebulous void somewhere.
Right, because we want you to concentrate on being the best, whatever it is that you do.
Right.
And don't worry about the small stuff because we'll take care of that. So I'm like, so if I want to progress in my political career and progress in my other interests in life, I just got to build my administrative team. Mm-hmm. And a big part of it, I just learned,
Is the accountant.
Because, in the Army, we would take in our T4, and usually we maybe got most guys would get maybe $200 or $300 back because we're paid by the taxpayer.
That's right.
In the Army, they know exactly how much they're giving us, and they know exactly how much to take back.
That's right.
So your return usually isn't much unless you have the allowances to claim for sports and stuff, maybe for your kids. So as a single guy, most of my career, I would hand it in, and the same day, usually I'd get a check back if I got anything. And then it's like, that's beer money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For that weekend. So, but now I'm seeing the ins and outs, and now I got a kid, I got 2 kids, and I got all this stuff. So I'm loving it. And then taking this entrepreneurial course, there's just all these little tricks that they show you that to maximize your time as an entrepreneur because the biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make is they work in the business.
Yes.
They don't work on the business, right?
Sure.
So you got to be able to, you can do all your paperwork and your bookkeeping and your accounting and your administrative, tracking your members and all that stuff. You can do all that yourself, but then who's out building the business?
For sure. You need to have people who it's their expertise to do particular skills. You can't be good at everything.
Exactly.
So you need to have the right people. I remember reading a book about an American company called Zappos.com, and the book was by the founder, Tony Hsieh. And one of the key concepts that he talks about in the book is about having the right people on the bus, right? Because you can't do everything. So you have to decide where the bus is going but your team is made of people on the bus. And the
good
thing
one.
that is most important to you as the bus driver is to let the right people on the bus, right?
That's a great way to
course.
look at it. Yeah. So anyway, I had a long chat with my accountant, and I was just like, okay, from now on, you're my pay clerk. You're gonna take care of this for me. You get to write my leave passes. You get to tell me when I can afford to go on vacation. All that stuff. So anyway, the great course, like I said, any veteran out there who has aspirations to work for yourself, look into this course. It's well worth your a week of your life. But we said this during the podcast where we talked about Black Lives Matter at the Toronto Pride Parade.
Yeah.
The media is going to notice us eventually.
Yeah.
The local media. Doesn't it happen that I go away for 10 days straight because I had to go to the Saskatchewan Writers Fest before I went on this course. So I was gone 10 straight days. And that's the day that David Rivley, a local, like, well-known reporter, decides to write an article about the podcast. And he calls my office and my staff, because he doesn't have my private number. So he goes to the source to find me. So he calls my staff, and they're like, "Well, he's away on a trip, so he can't be reached." And then I read the article, and I'm like, and I called my guy, and I said, "That's one of the ones where maybe, regardless of where I am, just call me."
Come
I
find
would
me.
have loved to have talked to Dave.
Sure.
And and actually we talked about this before we came on the show that we had this discussion about the Black Lives Matter thing, and I don't feel like Dave was very. I don't know if you read the article, but anyway, it did great things for our listening numbers. Our downloads went up, so thanks for that.
For sure.
And I tried to get him to come on the show as well to try and figure out why he would approach what we were trying to do the way he did. And I get it. It's clicks, right? They're trying to get clicks on their website too. And I'm a well-known city councilor, so I guess it's natural that you want to present it in a way that makes people angry, I guess, to make them want to read it.
Sure.
All we were trying to do is talk about why would Black Lives Matter choose the gay pride parade, right? And why would they want to ban the cops? So we talked about this before we went on air, and we wanted to save it. Are you comfortable with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said something really interesting in our preamble to going live, or to going on the recorder. You said, when I get pulled over as a black man, there's a certain things that I make sure I do to mitigate any situation, right?
Correct.
And I didn't want to ask you then because I wanted you to say it on air if you're willing. Is this based on what's happened to you in your life, or based on what's happened to other black men that you know or have seen on the news?
So it's a combination of both.
It's both. Okay.
And so, for obviously, because we're not.
I guess we should say for the listeners, Chris is black.
That's right. So I was gonna say, so the listeners who can't hear it in my voice, so I'm black, and I'm married to a white woman, and to answer your question, yes, it's a bit of both. If you were to sit down and have a chat with my wife and I, right? There's things that have happened. So there's things that have happened to me personally,
But with the police,
outside of my wife, just in general in the population,
right.
But also with the police,
Right.
And then there are things that have happened with us together, more in general in the population, not necessarily with the police, which has made her aware of that there is a difference,
Right.
But for myself, so here's one example. Okay, so. I can't. I guess my oldest son is 25. So this was probably about 15 years ago when he was about 10, and we happened to be in Cambridge because my wife's parents live in Cambridge. I live in Kitchener,
The city that's not better than Kitchener.
That's
'Cause
right.
I was born in Kitchener too.
Exactly.
Just like you were, and we had this argument before we went on air. So Mandy, sorry, Kitchener's better.
Cambridge is the other side of the
Cambridge
tracks.
is
Right.
it's called the Tri-City because it's Waterloo, Kitchener, Cambridge, but really Cambridge is like that side of the highway.
Exactly.
Right?
So anyway, so we're in Cambridge, and my wife's parents, they're upper middle class family. They live in a fairly nice end of town. They live in nice houses and whatnot. So, the black population in that part of the town isn't necessarily, large, right? And so on that particular day, I'm driving in my car. and I'm not driving erratically. I'm not doing anything. I had my 10-year-old son in the front seat with me. Okay, my car happens to have a little bit of, or the car that I had at that time had to have some slightly tinted windows. So we're driving in the car, and I can't remember where we're going. Driving, not speeding or anything. Driving down the road, a cop is approaching from the other direction, driving in his car. I had no outstanding warrants for anything, no speeding tickets, no nothing, no parking tickets, no nothing. Driving down the streets, middle of the day, but we're in this sort of nice-ish neighborhood. Cop comes the other way, and as I'm driving, as I pass the cop, I can see in the mirror the cop does a sudden U-turn. And you, if you've ever been pulled over, whether you're white, black, you know when they're coming for you, right?
Yeah.
It's not
sure.
like
All the
For
time.
sure.
It's not like I'm just doing. I've just leisurely decided to do a U-turn. It's like they go. They
Not a
have,
3-point turn.
No.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
They have the cop U-turn, right? So he goes by my car and then, whoom, like full U-turn in the middle of traffic. Guy comes flying, lights up the cherries, pulls us over. So at this point, I'm pulling over. My son hasn't seen yet
That you're being pulled
that we're
over.
being pulled
Yeah.
over. He just sees that we're pulling over. And so he says to me, well, what's going on? And I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's okay. So, and as a black man, as I said to you before, I'm always going to do certain things because I see what happens on the TV or in the news and in the media. And I've heard things happen to friends of mine in the past. So I'm always going to do certain things. So I always make sure that I take out my ownership right away, ownership license and insurance. I put those things on the dashboard. I always put both my hands directly on the wheel and keep my hands on the wheel at all times so that they can see my hands.
Okay.
And this is somebody who is training. At that point, I was training to become a surgeon, right? So it's
Right,
not
right.
like I'm just some guy, like I'm training to be in, the upper echelon of professional society.
Yeah.
So I put both my hands on the wheel, roll down the window, and at this point, my son is kind of getting a little bit nervous, and he's like, "What's going on?" He turns around, he looks, and he sees the lights, and he's like, "Dad, what's going on?
What did we do?"
What did we do?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm not sure. Don't worry about it. Just be calm. Keep my hands on the wheel." Guy comes over, and I don't think he was expecting to see
The kid.
the kid in the
yeah,
front,
yeah.
right? Because he kind of comes over, and at first he's all professional, he's very assertive and
Right.
very direct. And then as he kind of looks into the car and he can hear Zach who's starting to cry, right? And I've got my hands on the wheel, and he's like, license, registration. I said, they're right here on the dashboard. I'm gonna take my hands off the wheel, get those to you.
Yeah.
And then he's like, so Zach is now saying, "Dad, what's going on?" And so I said to the officer, is there a problem, officer?
Yeah.
And he just kind of took my stuff and walked away. So he went to go back and check. Now Zach's sort of full on crying, not understanding what's going on, not knowing why we're being pulled over. And I know from experience, it's not going to help me to get excited, to get agitated.
Never helps.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
sit there. I sit there calmly. After about 5 to 10 minutes, he comes back, hands me my license and registration. And I said, I said, did we do something wrong? Is there a problem, officer? No problem. Routine check. And then he let us go on our way. And, perhaps it was a routine check.
Yeah. I see the
But-
doubt in you're getting excited just talking about it right now because you were clearly vexed by
But
the
it's
whole
like-
situation.
Like, what was the purpose?
It's not the only time.
You know?
Right.
Right?
Oh, no,
Right.
for sure. There have been other times,
Yeah.
But, and like, when I think about that, I think, like, what's the purpose? You know what I mean?
So just for context, in your life, estimate how many quote routine checks have you had, unquote.
I would say somewhere between 5 to 10.
Okay. Yeah, I can recall at least twice having a routine check done, but it was when I drove an 88 Monte Carlo SS and maybe had the T-tops off and, a bit of an FU attitude towards the whole world. So like this is where I guess I have a bit of trouble relating to these experiences, and now yours is very mild. And I've had conversations with people where they tell you straight up, like, yeah, the cop was calling me the name, and he was being a dick, and just not listening, and had saying, because I remember I said this on my podcast. When I was 18, my dad had a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yep.
And those back that, like, to these days, they're like $80,000 Jeeps, right? Depending on which one you get.
Yep.
So me and my brother would drive it, and the Peel police would pull us over and be like, "Well, obviously you're a drug dealer."
Right.
And I would, well, no, it's my dad's Jeep. Whatever, kid. Like, I remember the one time because I was wearing a Carhartt jacket, and and those are a bit like gangster look, whatever.
Right.
I'm like a skinny white kid. So and back then in the '90s, Brampton was a lot more white. Pushes me up against the car, turns me around, because I was also big, right? I'm like 6'4". At the time I wasn't that big. I was maybe 180, and he starts like kind of just giving me these little jabs in the kidney.
Sure.
He's like, where is it? And I'm like, what the? He's like, where is it? Is it in the spare tire? And it wasn't like hard. I wouldn't say it was a beating at any, but it was like the threat was there.
Right.
Like, give me what I want, or
Yes.
you might get something. And I didn't disclose this before, but I was also being a smart ass.
Sure.
I was like, I'm like not giving him the right answers, and I'm like, what's your? Have we sworn yet?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Could this be our first episode without an E on it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe.
not to get too descriptive, but that's my one worst case of that one. And I got pulled over probably 2 other times where they were just like, where's the drugs, or why you? The one guy was like, how can you afford this at your age?
Yeah.
But I've heard the stories. I mean, we saw the video of the one guy in his car dying with
Yes.
the kid in the back seat.
Yeah.
He was a suspect in a robbery, but that's besides the point. We don't know. I don't know what happened. I heard he had an open carry license for a pistol.
Yeah. And
As a felon,
apparently,
so I'm not sure what state he lives in,
No,
where
exactly.
a felon can have an open carry license. But these moments are clearly real, and
For
these
sure.
feelings are clearly not in people's. Like, a lot of people, I think, try to say, "Well, we all feel that," and I'm not, and I try not to say that, but I also am trying to see it from the point of view of someone, because I did grow up a white kid in a white Canada, mostly white Canada. In a province that's predominantly white, in a city at the time that was predominantly white. I mean, you're from Kitchener. I don't know how long you were there, but I did enough time. I hung out enough in Kitchener. Like, the Jamaican population isn't that big, even to this day. I don't think.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So, I do believe that there's an issue, but what I'm trying to understand today is, where are we going? 2016, and I would love to get to the point where a Canadian's a Canadian is a Canadian.
Exactly.
And I don't know if we're getting closer to that or further from it with some of the behavior that I see on all sides.
Sure.
You post one thing about, so like the Native Canadians. They've had a brutal history in this country.
Yes.
If you read into the real history. And the reaction of a lot of people is that, well, they're taken care of by the taxpayer, and they got these opportunities, and never mind the genocide that went against their culture with the residential schools. And I get in a bit of trouble because I'm a white guy trying to understand this. So I'm trying to understand the perspective of someone, like, say, from your point of view, like, is me talking about this a bad thing, or I thought we were the ones that were supposed to be trying to understand the point of view. So I'm trying to get an honest opinion from someone that isn't tainted by the media or something like that.
Yeah, no. So I think it is important for everybody to talk about, not just blacks, not just whites. I think it's important for everybody to talk about it. But I think that my wife and I were talking about this before you came, because she wanted to make sure I sounded intelligent, and she wanted to know what I was going to say, and I think ultimately we need to be talking about a message of inclusion, and we need to be talking about us as people. We are all people. It's funny, like when I operate on somebody, right? When I'm performing a hip fracture or whatever, fixing any of that kind of stuff, when I cut people open, We are all the same color on the inside, man. I don't care what
like
your
that.
skin color
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
We are all the same. Our blood is all the same. Our bone is all the same. We all look exactly alike on the inside. So we need to be thinking about more what keeps us in common than what makes us different. You know, my wife said to me, well, you know, should we have a Black Lives Matter a movement or whatever? And you know, I said to her that if you are a portion of the population that is, abused or feels abused, or you're, looked upon as second class, then I think it is important for that group or population to have unity, because in order to change the situation, it is better to be acting as a group than it is to be acting as individuals, and to have all these people who have different agendas, and have they're all saying different things.
Yeah.
So it's important for them to have unity.
The movement didn't come out because there wasn't a problem. Like, it wasn't they just
no,
woke up
exactly.
one day and said, you know what, let's pretend like there's a problem.
That's
There
right.
is a problem.
That's right.
And,
But
and it has to be addressed. And the only way I grew up in a union family. Like, my dad was
Same here.
part of the Canadian Auto Workers.
Yep.
Maybe they know each other. We should find out. The unions didn't come along because workers were getting treated fairly,
No, exactly.
right? So there's clearly an issue, but from my point of view, as a white, I'm not an Anglo-Saxon or anything. I'm German, Serbian, mixed blood. I'm a mixture. But where was I going with that? When I see one of the leaders of the movement tweet something like, "Help me, Allah, not to kill white people and these men," I can't help but feel like a little like, well, what did I do?
No, for sure.
As a person, and then to also be then berated for trying to understand the point of view of I have zero issue with any movement that is trying to bring attention to an issue. I questioned the tactics of the pride thing. I will never accept ban the cops from anything, because to say that police make you uncomfortable, hey man, and I get it. I'm not uncomfortable the way you're uncomfortable at a traffic stop.
Sure.
But believe me, my stomach twists up, and I
Sure.
wonder, like, what did I do? And usually it's I can't afford to lose any more points because my insurance will go up.
Yeah.
But I have my experiences as a kid, and that hasn't happened since I was a kid.
Sure.
So I don't know, as a 35-year-old man with my kid in the car, maybe I would react different if a cop pulled me over for no reason and I had one of my daughters with me. But I'm just trying to understand it. But also, when the person tweets something like that, or if the reaction of just trying to get to know why you would say that is to push back and say you're a racist, or you have no right to speak on this, that's when I start to now I need to find someone that I can have a reasonable conversation with.
Well, so I think anybody has a right to speak on it, because this is a problem that affects us all, right? And so if as a black community we say, oh, you as white people can't speak to this, I don't think that's fair. I think as a black community, unless you have had experience with somebody else who's been black and you've seen it or lived it, I think it's fair to us to say, well, you may not understand my perspective, but I don't
want to.
But it doesn't mean that you can't speak to it. And to be quite honest, we need to have more people speaking about it of all color, so that people say, you know what, this is a freaking problem, man. Like, this is a problem. Help me understand what it is that I can do to solve this. And when my wife and I were discussing it, I think at the bottom, at the end, the key is education, right?
Okay,
Because this is not a problem that's just going to go away.
Right. Not if we don't address it.
No, it has to be addressed. It has to be education. And my deep down, when I've thought about this, I think, my wife and I, we have 3 children, and our children, they are mixed, obviously, right? And so to some extent, they're not white. To some extent, they're not black. They're their own thing. And I've often thought to myself, it won't, until we are all look the same, until we're all the same shade, this won't be an issue. but then I sometimes wonder, well, then it will be something else, because then
it'll be neighborhood against neighborhood.
People will be against the fat people, or neighborhood against neighborhood. Anything, we have an innate desire to be a part of something.
Because humans are tribal.
Yes.
And I think that's our biggest obstacle to this, is that you have guys killing each other over what football team what was it? It was a baseball game, and the guy coming out was wearing the other team's jersey, and they beat him to death.
Yeah.
So there's clearly an animalistic instinct in our head that tells us that if you're different from me, you're a threat.
Yes.
Of some kind.
Yes.
And so, it's good that I talked to you about this. I think we went off course a little bit, because I was trying to, the article by Rivley really opened my eyes to how people interpret things, and then even I don't really want to get into it here because it's still fresh, but we had the fella die as he was being arrested on the weekend, and the back and forth on both sides is just it's cut and dry. And I'm trying to figure out why we can't have a middle ground, and I'm starting to wonder if social media is taking away a lot of the middle ground. Well, it's allowing people to just stay in their own little camps. For sure. And I think of stuff like the word cultural appropriation. Does that even mean anything to you? I try to understand it. We had the thing at Carleton, I think, where they were doing yoga, and there's a little bit more to the story, but the overall arching theme of it was that the student council felt it was cultural appropriation to have a white woman teaching yoga. And it's isn't that what the whole point of our community is as Canadians, and in a sense the Americans, is that we always for not even just us in North America, but entire history is about cultural appropriation, isn't it? Well, we learn from each other, we take the best from each other, and we incorporate it into our lives. And I think about that, it's racist to wear the Arabian Night or the Arabian Princess Halloween outfit, and I go, well, does that mean wearing a Viking one is?
Yeah,
because Vikings were a clan. They still are, they're still out there. But is it racist to wear a ninja outfit? Because they were real people. They still are.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm trying to get a handle on what's the right way to go with it, because to me, I want people I identify a lot with my German background, not the bad parts, the recent era, but there's a lot, like Oktoberfest.
Yes.
So if you as a black guy, a Kitchener, walks into an Oktoberfest, which I'm sure you did,
yes,
was everyone ever like, hey, you're culturally appropriating Oktoberfest, black guy, get out of here?
Yeah, no.
Right. So what's
although having said that, I would be nervous to walk into the Edelweiss Tavern during Oktoberfest. I think I would be a little bit nervous. Yeah.
I think I went there as a kid. Grandma was the German one. Grandpa was Serbian. And she would always make me do the chicken with her.
That would make me, I think it would, to be honest, it would make me a little bit nervous.
Even today?
Maybe not so much today.
Yeah, but back in the day.
Back in the day, for sure.
That's an interesting point. Okay, so that completely flips my theory on its head, actually. It's I don't know. It's such an odd thing. I don't want to get us in trouble here. I get in enough trouble as it is, just trying to figure this stuff out.
Trouble seems to find me all the time.
Does it?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to make a good team then. What do you think, Mandy, over there?
You can only control yourself.
You can only control yourself.
That sounds right.
I believe that 100%. Yeah. All right, let's stop talking about that, because I don't need another article in the paper right now. I got enough stuff to talk about. So, we went to... Did you see that lady get jacked by a tiger?
Oh, jeez, man. Yeah, I did see that.
How far removed are we from nature?
For sure far.
Could you imagine if you're driving through, let's say you're driving through, what's the park on the Quebec side? Driving through Gatineau Park, and the sign says, hey, don't get out of your car because there's a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
I'm locking the doors and rolling up the windows as I'm crossing the bridge into Quebec.
So this place was like a drive-through zoo type place, correct?
It's like an African lion safari.
Yes.
Okay. So that section of the park, the animals are free roaming. You're not supposed to get out of the car.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't.
So you know the story.
So I know, for what I read, this is what happened. So the husband and wife, the mother or mother-in-law, and the child are in the car. So the husband and wife get into an argument in the car. The wife gets mad, walks out of the car, walks around. She's in the passenger side, front passenger side, walks around the car to the driver's side, is arguing with the husband through the window.
Right.
She gets pulled. She
Did
gets
you see
attacked.
the video?
Yes. She gets attacked by the tiger. The husband goes, "Oh my God." So the husband and the mother-in-law jump out of the car to save her. Then the wife gets mauled, but she survives. And the mother-in-law gets killed by the tiger.
By another tiger.
So
It wasn't even the same tiger.
Oh, it was by a second tiger.
A second tiger. It's a tiger reserve.
Yeah.
Don't get out of your car.
You do not get out. You do not get out.
Okay, listen, man.
But did you see the video? It was like she's standing there,
It's
and it was like
awful.
a hook. It was like a hook on stage.
Yeah.
The lion just is like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, it's almost like he looked at the camera like thumbs up, and he grabs her, pulls her away.
Yep.
And the husband, I know I'm laughing. I shouldn't be laughing, but he goes to chase her. And then he goes to jump back in the car. Did you see that?
Yeah,
And then he goes, man, I better do something. And he runs after the tiger. Man, I couldn't imagine chasing a tiger because my wife got out of the car when you shouldn't have.
And like you know
Incredible.
what? Every couple argues, okay?
Yeah.
And I know I've lost my temper.
Man, you ever been so mad you'd get out of the car when there's tigers around?
Listen, so.
Oh, no. She's just like, oh, hell no.
I am not like as upset as I've been, and I've probably stormed out of the car a few times. But if I am in a tiger reserve, man,
You definitely
I am
do not.
getting out of the car. My temper tantrum is going to be fully in the car.
Yes. Yeah, you throw that fit
I'm
in
not,
the
like,
car.
don't even stop
and
the car.
that's
In
it.
fact, speed up because I want to get mad at you after we're on the other side of that gate.
Yeah.
I just think about like we talked about this the other day about the cat that I saw, remember?
Yeah.
In the last podcast,
Yep.
we talked I was driving on a country road and there was this cat, and at a distance, I'm like, that thing moves just like the lions on the David Attenborough specials.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if that thing was as big as a dog,
They say cats were as big as tigers, they would kill you. You would be dead.
100%, cats kill everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we are so far removed. Like today, I was driving downtown with a buddy. We were going to the local TV station. And have you heard of the 22 push-up challenge yet?
Yes.
So we we did that on CTV this morning. And if you guys don't know, the 22 push-up challenge is you do 22 push-ups a day for 22 days to bring recognition to the estimated 22 veterans we lose per day in the States to suicide in Canada. Obviously, isn't that many. We don't have nearly as many veterans, but we do lose. I've lost a lot of buddies to suicide. But anyway, back to my point. We were turning right at an intersection, and this girl, early 20s probably, is walking and just walks right across. Okay, she's got the little guy saying she's allowed to cross, and I have the right of way, but the law actually says you need to have eye contact with the driver.
Yes.
And we know the highest percentage of accidents nowadays are distracted driving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Texting, Pokemon Go apparently
Lord.
now.
I was
People are
going
driving
to
off
say,
cliffs.
Yeah.
maybe she was tracking down that last
Yeah, but
Pokemon.
what if
she
the guy I
was-
was with was doing the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
So she would have got smoked because she didn't bother to look over her shoulder. And I started berating her, but at my buddy, saying like, if this was back in the day, a saber-toothed tiger just ate her.
So
Because we have no concept of what's around us anymore.
So I've said to my wife many times, and sometimes quite often she'll say I'm pretty closed-minded, but I'll comment about things like this. And my own personal opinion is that, in the past, people like the gene pool would take care of itself
Yes.
because people who got out of the car in a tiger reserve got eaten, right? Or
So they're no longer a problem.
Or people who didn't look when they crossed the street would get hit and they'd get killed. Now, although I'm a part of this problem because I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so now we have medically trained professionals who will take those people and put them back together. And not that I'm saying that that's wrong, but it's just we have all the wonders of modern medicine,
Right.
but
But we've-
sometimes modern medicine goes against the
Natural
process-
selection.
natural selection and evolution.
Right. Well, we've also gotten rid of anything that predates on humans.
Oh, for sure.
Right. In our area, anyway.
For sure.
I was watching a thing where there's an African village where they're still having people snatched by crocodiles.
Yeah.
And they brought in this guy who's a specialist, and while they're filming, like, someone got snatched by a crocodile.
Yep.
So there are places in the world where it's still a problem, but it just, to me, I'm like, there are tigers, right? And then you ever been driving through Algonquin Park? You ever drive through Algonquin Park?
Yep.
And you see people trying to get closer to the moose?
Oh my Lord.
I stop sometimes and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. I've stopped to watch because I'm like, for sure that lady's like 20 meters from that moose. For sure it's gonna decide to kill her.
Anything that stands 8 feet tall at the shoulders,
You can drive under it with your car.
you don't get out and stand next to that, and it's completely wild. Like, you don't get out and stand next to that. Oh, look at no. That's okay. I'll stay in my car. Look at the moose.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'll get a zoom lens. How about that? And I don't know, like, we're just so separated from it that people think it's okay to get out in front of a tiger. Like, cats are scary when they're mad at you.
They're awful.
Yeah.
They're awful.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Do you got anything else? We got any more fan questions? I know we're a little bit all over the place tonight, kids, but trust me, I'm having a blast.
Hey, man.
So if you're not having fun, then we'll talk next week.
We do. There is more questions.
All right, hit us with some.
All right.
Is there any more for Chris?
No, not specifically.
Okay, so
but-
this is one for all of us.
Yep. So let's see here. If there was one thing you want all civilians to know about what it's like to serve, what would it be?
Ooh. Well, it's that's an interesting question considering the situation that some of our Ottawa police are in. Without getting too far into that situation, here's the one thing I always say to people, and Chris, you can address this because you're in uniform as well. We are an all-volunteer force. Let's talk about Army, which is what I know. We're an all-volunteer Army. The pay, considering the job, isn't that great. Most civilians wouldn't do it. We don't soldier to get rich.
Right.
You don't soldier to achieve glory, maybe amongst your peers, but those moments are few and far between where that can be had. Because I've thought about this, especially after I had my feet blown off. Like, why was it so important for me to serve? Even after my feet were blown off, I was still desperate. I would go back tomorrow if they invented legs that could like attach and become basically as normal or better than normal. Because you always want to upgrade, right?
Yeah.
If you have to, you might as well upgrade.
Of course.
I'd be over there in that sandbox chasing ISIS.
Yeah.
If they'd let me. I might be a little too old now, but it's a feeling. It's a like, I'm a first generation Canadian, and my experience in life, my family was able to claw their way up from the tobacco fields around Kitchener to the point where I'm a city councillor in Ottawa.
Yep.
So to me, service to me was like almost a way to give back to the country that adopted my family.
Right on.
So what about you?
Well, my perspective is a little bit different because I've not, I'm a reservist and I have not had any active deployments, but certainly I hear and I can sort of relate to what you talk about because I'm a first generation Canadian. My parents were both factory workers, and I was able to rise from that to become an orthopedic surgeon and be a professional. And that that's because of the country in which I live, and
100%.
And if I was born somewhere else, that would not necessarily be the case. I would not have that available to me, and we take for granted so much of what we have, and it's by virtue of us just having the fortune of being born here. And so if I can do a little bit to help give back to that, then I think that's
You're proud
important.
to have the Canadian flag on your shoulder.
Oh, I
in
am.
your uniform.
Oh, for sure.
It's awesome. I think about like imagine if there was a union in the Army, and guys got paid and girls got paid by the hour and stuff like that. Like it's unfathomable.
Yes.
because it's not a job you can do on the clock.
No.
You
no.
know? And
You do stuff that needs to get done. You
Yeah.
work until it gets done because
you get
that's
it done.
That's
Yeah.
what needs to happen.
And you guys will reach into their own pot. Like the Army is it's getting a lot better. Of course it is, because I'm not in it anymore. But the Army's getting a lot better at providing the kit that the troops need.
For sure.
Back when I joined in '94, it was here's what you get and make do.
That's right.
And now it's they're a little bit more willing to be like, okay, well, what kind of gloves are better? And each unit maybe can choose the different type of glove as long as it's within a certain parameter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still, but guys we would reach into our own pocket and buy the equipment
Yes.
with our meager salary to begin with, just so we had what we knew we needed to do the job better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough to find. Like even factory workers, right? My dad was one as well. Where did your parents work?
My father worked at Bud Automotive, and my mother worked first at Greb Shoes, and then later at Dare Cookies.
My grandma worked at Greb Shoes.
There you go.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my mother was making army boots, man.
Right on.
Grandma made the army boots. They made the rucksack there too, right?
Oh, did they? I did
Yeah.
not know that.
There you
They
have it.
probably worked on
This is
the
awesome.
same line together.
How old your mom
My mom is 73
now?
73 now.
So grandma died when I was in Afghanistan at 83 in 2006.
Okay.
So,
Well, so she, but, like
so your mom might have been there.
about 15 years older, but
Yeah.
probably they worked.
That's crazy to me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Bud Automotive is where I can't remember. My dad worked at Lear.
Okay.
The
Yep.
Lear plant. He was a
Yep.
welder there.
And my dad was a welder at Greb. Or I mean at Bud.
At Bud.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty sure my grandpa and my uncle Pete worked at Bud. I'm pretty sure.
There you go.
I'm gonna have
Small
to
world.
find out now, man. I love that stuff. Where were we?
Questions.
All right, I was still
So-
talking about how soldiers don't do it to get rich. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
No.
know. It's service, and then same for first responders. I believe like it's a tough gig, and things don't always go your way, and you're not making. It's not like you're coming out at the end of your career as a millionaire. You get a decent pension.
Yep.
If you don't get cancer, like a lot of fire guys get cancer. Paramedics, a lot of them get PTSD. A lot of cops, same thing. You get hurt on the job. Like you see something you don't want to see, and like that's what they do every day.
Yeah.
I deployed for 6 months at a time.
Yep.
They deploy every morning
That's right.
or every night when they punch in.
That's right.
I don't know, man. Like, and we have these people in our society that are the reason why Canada is the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not dismissing anybody else. I would never do that. But without that core group of people, we would not be the nation we are
I think
by any stretch of the imagination.
I haven't done an extensive amount of traveling in my life, but I've been to the U.S., I've been to Europe, I've been to the Caribbean, and it seems that wherever I go and whenever I meet people from other countries, as soon as you say you're Canadian, they're like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're
yeah.
automatically you're a good guy."
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that's there's a reason because of that,
Yeah.
right? And our country is it is a multicultural country, and we are known as being very polite and very accommodating. And I think our culture is in large part of because of what we have available to us, which in turn is in part because of what all of our military personnel and professionals like that, what they do for us, and people, as I said before, people take it for granted, but we're very fortunate to
And we
live where
talked about
do.
it a few minutes ago. We do have our issues. By
no,
no
for
stretch
sure.
are we
No.
anywhere close to perfect.
No,
But been where we've been and seen what we've seen, and this and this doesn't. And I got in trouble for my sister for saying this. Like we're still way further ahead
yeah,
than most places.
yeah,
And the best part about it though is that we can have these debates, and people don't go to jail.
yeah,
Imagine doing what Black Lives did at the Gay Pride Parade. Imagine a Gay Pride Parade in 90% of the world, right? It's
I know, for
illegal
sure.
to be gay in Russia.
no, I know,
It's illegal to be gay in so many countries. Like, and again, I'm not trying to say like that makes things good for those that might have been marginalized and had bad moments, but in Canada, we're always going to try and do better, right? And that's what makes me feel good is that, if you break I was talking to a guy today at the mall, and I know we're way off the question right now, but he broke his leg, and he was in a scooter, and he was eating an ice cream, and he's like, he was making fun of me because I wouldn't have ice cream, and I'm like, and he says, anyway, I broke my leg, but the government won't pay for me to get a scooter of my own because they say this is going to heal, so this is borrowed. And I said, what'd you do to your leg? And I forget what he told me, but I said, hey, if you're in Florida, you'd be bankrupt.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
A lot of places, and I love my American cousins and my American friends, but our tax rate up here is pretty high, but I'm not going bankrupt if I break my leg. And, and we just always seem to keep wanting to get better. And that's one thing that I really like about Canada. And for the most part, you can get ahead if you want to.
Yeah. No, I think, there are opportunities there for everybody. And like you said, things are not perfect. But what I've always tried to tell, at least my own children, I said, look, if I can come from a family of blue-collar factory workers and I can end up being a white-collar professional and, working as an orthopedic surgeon, then there is nothing that you cannot do, right? It's
100%.
It's available to you. You just have to put in the work. And one of the things that I think that as I get older that I discover that anything is possible within reason, because, depending on some people's circumstances in life. So the next thing that I'll say is within reason, but anything largely is possible if you just decide you are going to do it and you do what is necessary to get it done. And for some people, what is necessary to get it done may be less or more than the next person, but it doesn't really matter. The hardest thing that you have to do is to commit to doing what is required. And what is required? I don't know. What's required for you is different than what's required for Luke.
The biggest thing that's
for
required
Mandy.
is you don't quit when it gets tough.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, I think they encounter an obstacle or two, and they say, to hell with this.
No, exactly.
It's too hard.
But when I see that, I say to myself, obviously you didn't want enough. You did not want that thing.
Like if I don't have a 6-pack by November 5th, obviously I wanted pizza more than I wanted a 6-pack.
There you go, man.
All right, what's the next question?
We have one that actually kind of goes with the first one.
I don't want to repeat myself.
No.
Okay.
You can go with this. Do you think you would still be in the Canadian Forces if you didn't step on the landmine?
Yes.
If yes, what do you see yourself doing, i.e. like the unit, rank, etc.? Where would you be now?
This is just conjecture, obviously. I imagine my plan was to try out for the JTF, which is our Special Operations Unit. We now have 2 Special Operations Unit. We have our Canadian Special Operations Regiment, which is our Tier 2 unit, and then our Tier 1 unit is the JTF. For most of my career, it was JTF or the regular Army. There was no middle.
Right.
And so my plan was to come back, try out. Most of the guys that I know that tried out and passed were guys like me. So I assumed I would probably get into the unit, but assumption is a dangerous thing. And then if I had made it into the JTF, I was planning to be a sniper in the JTF. And what are we at? We're at 10 years almost since I got blown up. So, and amongst that group, you're amongst the very best. So you're ranked a little bit differently. So I probably would be a warrant officer by now.
Right.
Assuming I wanted to. You got to be careful with getting promoted, right? Because you can be promoted out of the fun stuff.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So as a master sniper, now JTF operator, now JTF sniper. Oh, you're a master sniper, and now you know how to be with us. Now maybe we'll just get you to drive a desk and run sniper stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not there. A bunch of my buddies are there, and I've never even gone to visit because I'm really, I feel jealousy sometimes, frankly, that I got wounded. and they're still able to go and do the fun stuff. So I kind of just live through them vicariously. So I don't know how it really works there. I know a good guy, one of the guys that I helped train him because he was on a basic course I instructed on. Best sniper I've ever worked with by far. And he's well known, and he's a great guy. And one day when he retires, I'm really hoping he'll come on the podcast or write a book or something. He still operates, but he does a lot of the administration as well.
Okay.
So I don't know how it really works with them. Maybe they don't have enough people that they can put you just on a desk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I imagine if I hadn't done that, I would have gone for the Canadian Special Operations Regiment. If that didn't work out, again, to be a sniper with them, if that didn't work out for whatever reason, then I would have just stayed a sniper in the regular army.
Right. Okay.
And I'd probably be a sergeant major by now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, I mean, if I stayed a sniper, though, I wouldn't be, right? So I imagine I'd be a sergeant major in the regular army, in the regiment. Because part of my thought process to being there is, as much fun as it is to be the guy on the ground pulling the trigger, you also have a responsibility to the troops behind you to mentor them. Mm-hmm. And it's tough to mentor if you're stuck in one spot and not getting promoted and stuff like that.
Right.
So, one of the things that I really regret is that I retired without having done another sniper course.
Okay.
And not because I think my knowledge had to be passed on. It's just a great feeling to really see guys grow and blossom and become good with the skill set you've given them, especially as snipers.
Right.
Like when you can take a guy that, because there's some guys that they try out or they come out, and it's really tough to get on the sniper course, first of all, even in the regular army. And to see someone come in and you're kind of like, I don't know about this guy. And by the end of it, you're like, oh, yeah, I'd operate with that guy any day.
Right on.
To see those guys, and you can really see the ones that get it, and the ones that don't, they go away. They go away. But you get the ones that come in, and you're like, yes, he is one of us.
Yeah.
And it's really an amazing feeling to do that.
Okay. Right on. And somebody else jumped in underneath that quick question and asked you, what's stopping you or did stop you from going on in a training capacity, kind of like how you were just talking about.
Right. Okay, so I was a master sniper qualified guy. Still, technically, I guess, whatever. You lose all that when you leave it, but it still sounds pretty badass. So I like to call myself master sniper guy. It doesn't mean that you get to go to the ancient temple of sniperdom and see the secret scrolls. It just means you can do the paperwork and qualify guys as snipers.
Yeah.
And so when I got wounded, my immediate thought was that, because we didn't know back in 06, 07 that universality of service meant you got kicked out of the army if you got wounded.
Right.
And being wounded in action, I assumed my career it would be kind of good for my career, having been wounded in action. Not like good, but it would be like one of those like, oh, there's, Jody got wounded in action, so that's like a little bit of a check mark on his assessment, and he's still here.
Yep.
Turns out that's not the case. So, and I'm not mad at anybody, whatever. Whoever wrote the policy, I might give them the finger, but anybody else, you're just doing your job enforcing policy. So they called me from the combat school in Gagetown, which is where we have our main combat training center for anyone moving up into leadership positions.
Yep.
And they said, we have a desk here for you if you're ready to come to Gagetown and help train snipers. The basic sniper course is trained at the unit level. Okay, so 1RCR runs its own sniper courses. The Det Commander and the Master Sniper courses are run at a Gagetown because those are leadership positions. First of all, no offense to anyone who lives in Gagetown and Fredericton, I didn't want to live in New Brunswick.
Okay.
Also, part of it was the system came back and said, well, you can't get posted to Gagetown. You were wounded. When you're wounded, you don't get posted, you don't get courses, you don't get promoted.
Right.
So I was one step, I was in the top 5 of the regiment to be promoted sergeant.
Yeah.
That's gone. I can't go on any postings that aren't like local to my base. So that would have been a fight. And then when I found out like there was just no career progression.
Right. Okay.
So now being wounded, they're like, oh, well, technically, you could probably make it to your 20 years, but you'll never be promoted. I was like, well, what am I? All proud men, or even women, I guess, any proud person wants to progress.
Yep.
So I was at year 97, 94. So I was at like year 10 of my regular Army career, like year 12 of my overall career, or 13, and I'm going to retire a Master Corporal after 20 years. And I did anyway. But to me, it was like, well, what's the point?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If I could have gone into a promotion stream where, maybe I wouldn't have made it to Sergeant Major, but I could have at least made it to Sergeant for a better pension.
Right.
And stuff. It's like, I still have a bit of, it's not anger, it's just disappointment in how the military handles the injured and ill. And that, like, I remember being in the States at their Center for the Intrepid, and I was talking to the commander there. She was a colonel. She was a doctor. And I was saying, like, I think I said something like, well, yeah, but, you don't get promoted. And she went, what? I was like, yeah, well, I'm wounded, so I can't get promoted. She's like, so? I'm like, well, you can't get promoted after you're wounded. She's like, I promoted a guy in a coma the other day because we promote if we feel someone deserves it. What do you mean? She's like, what is this? She's like, I was like, oh, it's universality of service. She's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. She's like, I promoted him because when he gets released or discharged, it's better for his pay. It's better for his pension and stuff. I'm like, hey, man, right?
I just do what I'm told.
Yeah. So I could have, and part of me not going into that training as well, because they brought me to Ottawa to work at Soldier On,
right,
which is for the injured and ill. So I felt like my duty now is more to others that were wounded.
Right.
Because at the time I was wounded, I was like one of like a handful of guys that had been wounded as badly as I was and survived. Right. And so, but seeing how things were going, I could see more coming. And I was like, well, we might want to try and work on this system. And I felt I was just in a position to try and help.
Okay, yeah.
But again, I regret that I didn't train snipers. So it's one of those like coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Right on.
But now, I might go advise on a sniper course as Mr. Mitic. So, it's not over.
Right on.
Life still goes on.
Yep.
Anything else?
Let's do one more along the same kind of stream. Maybe this person's trying to figure out if they're that person. Is what kind of person would be better at being NCM or NCO, and what person would be better at being an officer? So they're talking about like non-commissioned officer, and
well, they're asking the wrong type of question. NCM, NCO is basically the same thing.
Okay.
NCM is Master Corporal and below. NCO is Sergeant and above.
Right.
And then officer is lieutenant and above.
So is there types of people that suit those areas better?
Yeah. What's your thought on that, Chris?
Well, so for me, I'm coming at it from the perspective of being a medical professional. So all the people that I'm on course with are typically medical professionals or HCAs, right? So they're all officers, and they're all commissioned officers. So from my perspective, from what I've seen, it's an issue of how much self-direction you have.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you agree. And what I mean by that is that, so as an officer, you're going to have quite a bit more responsibility. Okay. And you are going to be expected to do things without being told. You have to do A, B, and C. You are expected to understand that to do D, A, B, and C have to get done.
Right.
Right? And so you have to have a little bit more insight, and you have to be a little bit more of a self-directed, self-motivated person.
Right. Okay.
To do that. And if that's not you, then being an officer is not not necessarily what's going to work.
Yeah, the only thing I would disagree with is the self-motivated part. It's every job has the workers and the managers. Right. Even our parents who worked in the factory.
Sure.
There was line manager and there was the line worker. So the NCOs are the doers. Right. So we need 5 foxholes, or we don't call them foxholes. We need 5 trenches over there, machine gun position there, and I want a mortar pit right here. That's what the officer says. The officer is the strategic looking guy.
Right.
And strategy is the overall arching plan, right? And the NCOs are aware of it. They know what their commander's intent is.
Right.
But it's their job to tactically implement it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. So the sergeant knows he knows exactly how to dig a trench. He knows exactly where to place it. He knows what angle. He knows exactly where his machine gun should go. The officer is the one who controls the big, like an officer could have 40, like a lieutenant, which is a junior officer, could have 40 soldiers under him.
Right. Okay.
Big crew. Most of them are going to have more experience than him, but he has to have the mind and the ability to control them and get them to do what he needs them to do and manage them. He's a manager of people.
Yeah.
Right.
And not that NCOs aren't, but it's more at
it's a more abstract level.
Yeah, it's the officer will stay up late planning things.
Big picture.
Yep.
The sergeant will stay up late ensuring that the things are happening. Right. He'll be walking the section. He'll be making sure his troops are doing this and that. And then the officer even has to come along and make sure the sergeant, hey man, did you change your socks?
Mm-hmm.
Did you,
Yep.
So it's a very, if you've ever been in a workplace where there's a lot of doers and only a few managers, it's kind of like that, right? Because each platoon of up to 40 guys has one officer.
Right.
And then if you go up, right, there's a 2IC, there's the battle captain, there's the OC, the officer in command. So their job is to just motivate the doers to get the job done. And it's not like we're in the army and it's like, do this, and everyone's like, yes sir, and they go do it. If you're a plug as an officer, good luck getting your troops to do what you want them to do.
Right. Yeah.
They'll do it, but it won't be well.
Right.
Like as good a job as they'll do is usually a reflection of how good a leader you are.
Right. Of course.
And you can have officers whose asses are covered by their NCOs.
Right.
To a point. But at some point, even the NCOs will be like, I'm done taking shit for this guy. Oh, I just swore.
This guy, of course.
Explicit lyrical content.
We almost made it to the end. Almost.
Yeah. I think we have one more?
No, that was it. That's it.
Let's just recap real quick. I want to make sure. Yeah, we don't need to talk about any of that stuff. Yeah, Rio Olympics. It turns out the athletes' village is a disaster. Did you hear about this?
I did not.
There's like sewage running down the walls of the athletes' village. Russia was banned, and then they weren't.
Well, they're not technically banned. Each individual sport federation within the Russian team can apply to be accepted.
That's right.
But like every Russian, now we're way off. But now, but every Russian athlete just about has been popped.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like
I
think there's been over 100.
Wasn't it the Russians that started the whole let's test for PEDs back? Like they still have records today that are held by Russians that haven't been broken because they were just jacked on all kinds of scientific injections. Like even today's athletes running probably a little hot themselves, but still not to the level that the Russians were in the 70s or the 80s?
80s, I think.
It was the 80s.
Yeah.
When was it D-ball was invented or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the Russians are like, well, we'll just go ahead and see what this does.
And it worked.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Strong like bull.
Oh, man. I couldn't imagine. So you happy, Chris?
I'm always happy.
All right. Well, I mean, with the show right now?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Mandy? Awesome. I can't tell with her. She's got that mom look the whole time.
No, I think she's good.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
She's over there making sure I don't say anything.
No, she's supervised. I can tell.
To implicate
We're
myself.
we're
or
like
make
3
myself-
children
Right,
to her.
yeah.
That's right. Make myself sound too stupid.
Yeah. We're like 3 boys that she's like, I just gotta keep an eye.
So she's the social media person for our business, right?
All right.
So she's in her head.
So she's assessing.
She's assessing and thinking about tomorrow, all the things she's gonna have to tweet or put on Facebook to fix
Is there anything
what I've said. Today.
Right. Okay, so we'll talk about that after the show. Where can they find Human 2.0 on the social medias?
So as we said, they can find us on Twitter, which is Humanverse2. They can find us on Instagram, Human 2.0, all words. Facebook, they can just look up Human 2.0, all
And
words.
that's a page.
That's a page.
And then where can they find? You got your own Twitter?
Yep, I'm Stable Knees, Stable, and then KNEEZ.
Okay.
That's me. And they can also find us on our website, which is human2.0.com, all words.
Awesome.
Right on.
Luke, where can they find you?
Coach Luke Rowan.
You didn't have a
Instagram,
coach's corner
Insta-
tonight.
No.
No, we got too deep into other stuff.
That's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I'll
Jody
bank
Mitic,
it.
of course. You can find me on all social media platforms that I think matter. Jody Mitic, JodyMitic. I want to thank Chris and Mandy for hosting us at Human 2.0 tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome. I think we'll be back.
course.
And, I'm looking forward to coming and doing a workout here sometime soon.
We'll put you through movement anytime.
Yeah.
This is an awesome spot.
Am I
for
leaving
sure.
anything out, buddy?
I don't think so.
Should we talk about Firehouse real quick?
Let's do it.
Well, we didn't drink any of his coffee tonight, but there's Firehouse Coffee Roasters on Facebook. If you've been a listener for a while, you know what I'm talking about. Firehouse, spelled the German way. If we were at Oktoberfest, it would make sense. House is spelled Haus, and it's Firehouse Coffee Roasters on Facebook. My man still won't get a website. And he's you know what? He's a local firefighter. He's a first responder. He's one of those guys that when you're running away from danger, he runs towards it. So let's help him sell a little bit of coffee and keep us awake at night. And I applaud him for trying. I'm still saying though, dog, get that website.
Hey.
I want to be able to click an order.
Easy does it.
And I think we're good.
Yep.
Episode 9, the Jody Mitic podcast. Signing out. Oh, and before we sign out, like we always say to our kids, we're the good guys.